What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. We've been ripping the brand new Talaria xXx for a week now, and it is officially time to do the off-road dirt test. Huge thanks to Talaria in China for rush ordering these dirt wheels out to us. This is the 17-19 combo that is specifically designed for this bike. These will be available soon at lunacycle.com. So let's throw these on and we're gonna head out on the trail and give them a test. All right, you guys, the moment you've all been waiting for. We are testing the Talaria xXx off-road. We got the dirt wheel set straight from Talaria. Let's see how it does. Before we get into it, guys, if you haven't seen our other videos on the Talaria xXx, you gotta go check them out. We did an awesome range test where this bike had the best battery range we've ever tested. And we did an overview video right when the bike came out, going over all the specs and our first impressions on it. So go like and subscribe, watch those videos. Let's see how this bike does off-road. All right, so you guys just saw me absolutely rip that whole section, and let's just be real, this bike is actually pretty capable, and we are very impressed with the rear linkage, the rear suspension. Even though it's a single pivot, it actually feels a lot better than we were expecting for off-road. Now this wheel set will be available soon on Lunacycle's website, and it is straight from Talaria. It comes with the OEM 220 rotors, a sprocket, a chain, and tires and tubes. Like, you are just ready to go. So the XXX is decent off-road. So what does that mean for you as a customer wanting to buy this bike? Well, it really depends on a few scenarios here. When you buy the XXX, it costs $3,000 from Lunacycle, and if you want to off-road this bike, you have to buy the off-road wheels. Supermoto wheels are not safe to ride off-road. The gravel is not good, dirt is not good. They are extremely slippery, and it's just a death trap waiting to happen. Okay, Supermotos are made for the road. Now, dirt tires can ride on the road. So that leads me to my next point. The Talaria Sting R is better off-road. Just to be clear, this bike is great off-road. The Talaria R is better. It's beefier, it's got better suspension, it has better rear suspension, it still has more power, so it is better for most riders off-road. And the nice thing about the Sting R is it comes with dirt tires, so you can use it on-road or off-road. I would say the Sting R is more versatile that way. Because it comes with dirt wheels, you can do whatever you want. All right, you guys know my thoughts on this bike off-road. It is great at off-road, but there's a few more things that we gotta talk about. So we're gonna pull over up here. We'll go over a couple of comparisons between the Talaria R and some price points and things, and see who this bike is really for, because it wasn't necessarily meant to go off-road. So let's talk about it, and then we're gonna let Reed and Alex give it a try. All right, guys, so we have all ridden the bike. You guys are gonna hear Reed and Alex's impressions in just a minute with some chest cam footage while they ride. But let's go over a few things on this bike with the dirt setup and just talk about it. So first off, everybody is comparing this Talaria xXx to the Sting R and the Surron X, which is great. We've been comparing it to those two, like nonstop. But what you really need to be comparing this bike to is all the other $3,000 e-bikes like Super 73. There's some Onyx ones that are around that price. There's a lot of other brands with bikes in the $3,000 range or just over $3,000. And when you start comparing it to those bikes, it's not even a competition. This bike just blows them out of the water in power, battery range, like how it was made, the simplicity, the functionality, the form, like everything is so much better. So while it's good to compare to the more expensive Talaria models and the Surron models, this bike is in a whole nother price category, and that's where it really needs to be put. So with that in mind, let's talk about the XXX off-road. We're pretty impressed with this bike. The rear linkage being a single pivot compared to the Sting R's full-on linkage and the Surron's full-on linkage, it actually has done surprisingly well. It doesn't have as much suspension travel as those other bikes, but it still is very smooth over the small bumps, and the whole bike feels extremely well put together. Extremely solid. There's very little rattle. There's no battery rattle. It's just a solid bike. Just because this bike can off-road really well doesn't mean that it's the best. Now, I talked about that the Sting R, it's better at off-roading. It does have the better suspension, has the better linkage, has more power, which is great, more torque for off-roading, climbing the steep hills. And this bike, you still have to pay somewhere around the $450 to $500 range to get a dirt wheel set for this bike. What I'm getting at is this bike was designed mostly to be ridden on road, and I think that's what you should buy it for. This bike was mostly designed to be ridden off-road. That's what you should buy it for. If you want to do both, right out of the box, the Talaria R can do both. Right out of the box, the XXX cannot do both. You cannot ride the Supermoto wheels off-road. It is just dangerous. You're gonna slide out and you're gonna crash, and we just do not recommend it at all. Yes, they can ride on dirt, but it is not safe. It doesn't work well. So with all that being said, that's kind of our take on these two bikes, the way they come from the factory. This bike still does great off-road, but the Sting R is still better. So if you're a hardcore dirt rider, Sting R is the way to go. If you want to buy this bike and eventually get a dirt wheel setup, then this bike will still off-road and you'll be able to have a great time. Also, if you guys are someone who wants to just right away upgrade your bike, Talaria Sting R is the way to go. There's tons of upgrades available for this bike. Talaria XXX is a brand new bike and there is essentially very, very few upgrades available. But then let's get to the real point. I don't think this bike was designed to have a ton of aftermarket parts and be a huge bike build. If you want to do that, buy a Talaria Sting R. This is for the bike that is going to work perfectly every time out of the box, and for those riders that want to keep it simple. All right guys, one more thing. We just want to clear the air after Surronster's recent video this weekend. He compared the Talaria R, the Talaria XXX, and the Surron Light BX. Now, we thought it was a great video and we love Surronster's content, no hate on him. However, there was a few misinformations in that video that we've been trying to clear up all weekend. We've had tons of questions on Facebook and comments on our videos. The main one being that the Talaria R at 30% battery is basically unrideable, that it's extremely slow and really isn't going to even get you home. That is totally untrue, and Surronster has even admitted that there must have been something wrong with his bike or with his battery. Because we have ridden countless Sting R's and we ride all the time, all the way down the battery percentages, and they just still have tons of power, tons of jump. And that's something we actually love about Talaria compared to a lot of the other brands. We just this last weekend went on a ride, me and Alex and Reed, and we rode down to, I was at 5, Reed was at 4, and Alex was at 12%. And we did a drag race that low, and Alex could still pop a wheelie. So like, it's totally fine, you guys. But we love Surronster's content. Don't be afraid that the battery's not gonna work below 30%.
All right guys, me and Alex have been riding this bike for a few miles now to get here, and all we can say is this bike is so much fun. Like, we were quite worried about that rear suspension with no linkages, but it's actually really impressed us. It's pretty dang smooth. Like, it's not as smooth as they are. Like, of course, it can't be without linkages and less suspension, but for what it is, it's really, really good. And it's so light and nimble compared to the R, it just makes it so much fun. I would totally ride this bike off-road. I cannot believe this bike is $3,000. Like, we're comparing this to $4,500 bikes, and it's keeping up. Like, this bike is really good out of the box. I cannot believe it's $3,000. So, obviously, if you only do off-road, you want a dedicated off-road bike that you do big jumps, you do crazier trails on, I would still 100% go with the Sting R. It's definitely got better suspension, it still has more power, bigger battery, but if you only do a little bit off-road, you do lots of cruising around town, you still go on trails, this bike will 100% do it all day long. I'm having a lot of fun on this bike. So we used to have a couple of Super 73s with full suspension and everything, and I cannot believe that those cost more than this does. This is 5 times better, no question. Like, way more power, longer battery, way better suspension. It just knocks it out of the park. This bike is crazy fast. This will totally destroy a MX-3 or a Surron on the trail, dude, honestly. The suspension is the only downside to this bike. If you're a lighter rider, you'll love this bike. If you're a bigger rider, you'll still love this bike. It's just that good. It's so playful, it's just awesome. A couple of upgrades that I would do to this bike are, when you're standing up, the pegs feel pretty tall and the bars feel low. So for a little bit bigger rider like me, I would for sure do a riser bar, probably 3-inch, and I would definitely do pegs. As you know, these bikes do not come with good pegs. We actually threw on Alex's pegs just so we could do this off-road test. So I would do pegs, I would do bar, I'd probably do good grips, and then you're good to go. This thing will rip. The front fork feels really good. It's very soft. It feels very strong. It doesn't feel like a D&M, like it's gonna bend on you. It feels really good.
Finally getting another turn on this bike, and this thing absolutely rips with these dirt tires. I'm loving it. It's keeping up with the Talaria R on these trails, and it is so much fun. The frame is so light, you're able to throw it around even better than the R, and the power is absolutely there. It's got more power than the Surron and the MX-3, and I really think I might just like this better than the MX-3 off-road. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. We've got tons of content on the channel and tons more coming with this bike. We're gonna be doing all sorts of upgraded aftermarket parts on this bike and on our Talaria MX-4s, so definitely stay tuned for that. If you are a heavier rider, I really don't think that this bike is gonna be that great for you. So this, you would probably want to go with the Talaria R, as it's a bigger bike and has a little bit more power. But as a smaller rider, I think that this would be such a perfect bike. Reed and Lance's brother, is actually looking to get a bike, and we're absolutely going to refer him to this one. He's going to do a lot of on-road riding and a lot of off-road riding, and this is going to be perfect for him. I'm actually really enjoying this seat. It is very narrow, but it's very comfortable. You're able to sit far forward and far back, just depending on how you like it, how big you are. I'm really liking that. I also love that it came with 19-inch front, 17-inch rear. It really feels playful and well thought out. It's really well put together, and I love these off-road wheels. It really makes the angle of the seat that much better, that it just feels so smooth on these trails, even with the no linkage in the back. On our way home now, we just did a top speed test, and the bike still goes 49 miles per hour, which is crazy impressive. We're gonna rip this home and catch you guys up at the end.
All right, you guys, it's the next day. We've been having a blast on the dirt wheel set for the Talaria xXx. Before we end the video, let's just go over a couple more really quick things. So on this fork, it does feel really good, but it does have less adjustment than the other version of the Talaria factory fork. There is no preload. It does have a knob, but it does not turn, and it's not meant to turn. There's only rebound. You can turn this one and adjust it. Feels really good for our weight, around 180 pounds. This bike does have a weight limit of 20 pounds if you're jumping. If you're not jumping, you can be a little bit heavier. The suspension will feel pretty soft at that weight. But all in all, guys, we are super impressed with this bike off-road. It really surprised us and surpassed our expectations. However, it's not for everybody. Like we talked about before, this is for the specific rider, and the Sting R is for those really hardcore dirt riders. But drop a comment, guys, on what else you want to see us do to this bike. We have some upgrades planned. We have more videos planned. We're excited to keep ripping it, keep putting more miles on it, and like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next video. See ya!